Life is full of challenges no matter what path you choose. The question is, which challenges are you willing to embrace? Today, Drew and I are going to be diving into the poem Choose Your Hard and break down how every choice in life comes with struggles, either good or bad, and those struggles shape our lives. So, without further ado, let's jump in. Drew, welcome back.
Thank you.
This is happening more often, and I like it.
Yeah, it's because we live close to each other.
We live close. We have similar goals.
Yeah.
And you're my best friend.
Hell yeah.
Give me some. Yeah. Well, talk to me about Help for the Holidays a little bit.
Help for the Holidays was great. Performance by you and me was phenomenal. And I'll throw Mama Dina out there,
Yeah,
too.
Mama Dina, shout out.
But the rest of the attendees suck. And I don't know if they're going to get another invitation to Help for the Holidays.
Well, yeah.
There's a difference between you get invited to Help for the Holidays and you bail. But then when you show up for Help for the Holidays and you don't even lift, and all you do is walk.
Yeah, you don't even run.
You don't even run.
Would you say it was fun for the holidays?
Yeah, so they did fun for the holidays. I'm shouting out Parker. Specifically,
get it together.
Coward.
What have you become?
Yeah.
It was fun, though. That was our 11th time.
That was 11?
I think so, because we started it in like 2017. I looked on my phone, and we've been doing it twice a year since. So
that's crazy.
Boom. If my math is right, that's 11.
Yeah.
That deserves
exciting.
5 booms.
5 booms.
I'm not going to do that. But I was thinking about having you on and thinking about like what topic we could discuss. And not too long ago, we talked about the poem Choose Your Hard. And it's from Steve Weatherford. I think he stole it from someone, but he posted it, talked about it on Nick Bear's podcast. And I used to carry a very small version in my wallet. There's still one in my car, but I think it's just like it clears things up to let you see like there's good and bad in all things. But it not necessarily good or bad. It's just like whatever you choose to do in life, you're going to have challenges, you're going to have setbacks, and it's just deciding which ones you want to go after and like that you're willing to endure. So I'll jump into this and then I have some questions and stuff. This is the poem. Being your best is hard. Being your normal is hard. Making wise decisions is hard. Making bad decisions is hard. Being in shape is hard. Being out of shape is hard. Losing weight is hard. Being fat is hard. Working out is hard. Being weak is hard. Being disciplined is hard. Being lazy is hard. Getting out of your comfort zone is hard. Staying in your comfort zone is hard. Starting a business is hard. Working for someone else is hard. Making a lot of money is hard. Making a little money is hard. Being rich is hard. Being poor is hard. Having great relationships is hard. Having bad relationships is hard. Having friends is hard. Having no friends is hard. Fighting for your marriage is hard. Divorce is hard. Having a lot of things is hard. Having nothing is hard. Living on purpose is hard. Living off purpose is hard. Doing life God's way is hard. Doing life your own way is hard. Everything is hard. Choose your hard. And I don't know. The more I think about our conversations, like your journey, my journey, I think a lot of that is based in choosing the harder right than the easy, not necessarily wrong, but then the easier path. Why do you think it is that every choice in life comes with its own difficulties?
I mean, like, that's part of the reason we're here, right?
That's
like
true.
to learn and to grow and like it's just a part of life. It sucks. You know, like there's a lot of great things, you know, in life, but a lot of life sucks.
Yeah.
And like for me, that whole poem is saying that no matter what you choose, there's going to be difficulties, you know. Yeah. But it, like, I think and I at least like the author, or maybe where Steve was going with it, is that the harder choice, the choice less traveled by, it might be hard, but I feel like it's less hard than choosing the easy path.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like what Jocko talks about with discipline equals freedom.
Yeah.
Like, yes, being disciplined is incredibly hard. Waking up when your alarm goes off in the morning, going to the gym, doing what you said you were going to do, like with the training program, staying strict to your nutrition, like everything about that's difficult, but the reward, in my opinion, is way better than taking the easy path, gaining a bunch of weight and feeling like crap. Like that's hard in itself as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's the idea that discomfort is unavoidable, and growth is optional. Like I've heard it said, like growth is a choice, and I've reflected on that a lot and like thought about like everything that grows has to push through some kind of difficulty. Like you talk about, you and I, we both went through growth spurts, and we're like, oh, we have growing pains, our knees hurt.
Yeah.
Like if you think about a seed,
I still have ghost growing pains.
yeah. What is it? Osgood slaughters. We got that.
Yeah.
Osgood slaughters suck.
Yeah.
But like with a seed too, you plant a seed, it has to like spread its roots and then push through the earth, and then like hopefully not get eaten by bugs or birds and all that stuff. But growth in any sense is hard. And I wanted to bring you on for this one because I feel like you've made a lot of hard choices recently, like over the past year. And I'm curious if there's one hard choice you've made that's made you proud.
I think there's been a lot of them. I feel like it's been compounding.
Yeah. We talk a lot about running and nutrition and stuff like that, but is there anything else? Like,
yeah, I mean, I feel like all of it, like every hard choice or like choosing the hard has just kind of made me into a different person I was 6 months ago, a year ago. You know, like the thing that I'm trying to, or that I'm starting to realize now, is that I'm dumb. I'm stupid.
We all are,
and it's okay. It's okay that I am that way. You know, like I'm not an educated person, but it's something that I want to work on, right? And so, but I feel like the choices that I've made, you know, starting with running, starting with like watching my diet, you know, even going into like who I am as a dad, like all those small choices have like compounded and making it easier to make those harder choices. So I feel like I can't pinpoint it to one, but I just feel like all of the little choices that were difficult kind of make me proud of who I am now.
Yeah.
So
I would agree with that.
But and now like I'm facing other challenges where I'm trying to like study.
Yeah.
I want to be like a student of like I don't want to be a student in college, but I want to be like a student of life where I'm learning about things. And one thing that I'm trying to work on is journaling.
Yeah.
As well. So
journaling is the best.
But like that's like I don't know if that answered your question, but
no, it for sure does. Like I think it's a year ago, like you had to make some serious life changes. Like over that time to get to where you are now, like that consistency is what compounds.
Yeah.
And I think like the beginning of anything you do will suck. Like if you decide to make a change in your life, it's going to be hard at the beginning because you don't have the habit yet.
Yeah.
But the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more at-bats you have, then it just becomes regular.
Yeah.
And that's your new normal. And it's interesting because I've talked about my own story where, like, I never was a runner. And your wife actually got me into it. She's like, let's go run a half marathon. But then the doctor's like, no, you suck.
Yeah.
You can't. But up until that point, like, I only ran 7 miles. And that was like, no way, I just ran 7 miles. Like I called Mom because she was the only other runner I knew, and I was like, Mom, I ran 7. And looking back now, it's like that's just a regular Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing now. But it took 4 years to get there, and it's not going to stop. Like it's just going to continue compounding if I'm consistent, like if I put in the work daily.
Yeah. And
so no, I think that does answer the question. But I'm curious what you think about this. Like, you've been talking a lot about David Goggins.
Yeah.
You've been hyping him up on this podcast forever. But I think it's because, at least I'm understanding, he's very misunderstood.
Yeah.
He is someone who's on a mission to understand his mind completely. And because of that, he pushes himself to his limits. And so I've kind of taken a note out of his book and asked myself, like, okay, well, what areas do I need to work on to get better?
Yeah.
Because I think if you don't have that honest look at yourself in the mirror, like he says, like you got to call yourself out if you're that 350 pound effer who's staring right back at you, you know. But like, it's important to make those distinctions so you're not lying to yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's a hard choice that I've made recently for my, like, over the past year, I would say, is trying to understand if I'm lying to myself or not, if that makes sense. Like, I talked about on the, like, for the prep for the Las Vegas Marathon, I was hyping it up like, I'm going after 250 and I'm going to do all this stuff, but I also got sick, so it's an issue there. But I really like was kind of lying to myself, thinking that it would come just naturally because I already ran a sub 3 and I was like, what's 10 minutes off that?
Yeah.
But I don't think I was working as hard as I could have been. So anyways, long story short to say that choosing the hard path leads to great results. Yeah. Only if you stay in the fight. Curious what you think the consequences are for avoiding certain hards. Like, let's say what's the consequence? We'll make it easy because we always talk about fitness. Like, what's the consequence of missing a workout in your opinion?
I mean, in the short term,
yeah,
not much, right? But what ends up happening is if you miss one, you could miss 2, you can miss 3, you can miss 4. You know,
that same compounding that gets you there
is it compounds. I think it compounds even faster.
Oh yeah,
you know, and that goes for anything. You know, like if you break a habit, like I feel like it's easier to lose it than it is to gain it.
Yeah,
you know.
Have you ever heard that you gain discipline in drops but lose it in buckets?
Yeah,
that's true.
I believe that.
Yeah, 100%.
I believe that. But you know, that's why like when we have our program, like it's so easy for me to know each day what I'm doing, because then I don't have an excuse of, you know, I didn't know what I was going to do, so I didn't do it, you know. Yeah. And then if I do miss a day, I always try and come back as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And I only miss it for sickness.
Dude, that's how I felt today when I got to the gym, because I had 2 days where my stomach was in shambles. It's horrible. I slept like for 2 days.
Yeah.
And I got to the gym and I was like, man, I am sore. Like, I'm weak. I was like, there's no excuse. I'm already here. Like, just make the most of it. And it's like what Jocko talks about, like, go through the motions. If you can't go all in, just go through the motions.
Yeah.
Until, like, you don't, or until you can give it your all, because at least getting there, telling yourself you go to the gym, like, being the one that's in there, like, that will set you up for future success.
I think also, like, when you're trying to make those decisions, like, should I skip a thing, you know, a workout, whatever, or, you know, should I skip a study session, whatever it might be, like, you got to think about the opportunity cost. Like, what are you going to be missing out on?
Yeah.
You know,
bringing economics into this.
Yeah, you got.
You said you weren't educated.
Yeah, you got to think about that though, because like, you know, if you're studying for a test and you're like, oh, I'll just skip one day.
Yeah.
Like, that's a couple hours of studying you could have had. You know, where you're a little bit better going into it, or like a workout that's a little bit better that you got healthier, or more fit. You know, like you got to kind of look at that. Obviously, like there's gonna be days that you miss.
Yeah,
nobody's perfect, but yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. And going back to David Goggins,
bring him back.
I gotta talk about this because this has been something that I've been thinking about a lot the last like 2 or 3 weeks.
Mid-singular cortex.
Well, yes. But no, it's what he talks about, the 300 version or 300-pound version of David Goggins. So he talks about how the David Goggins that he is 24/7 is not the real David Goggins. So the real David Goggins is the 300-pound fatty that he was before he decided to get his life together.
Yeah.
And the thing that I love about that is like every day he's choosing to be the version that he's created.
Yeah.
You know? Like he's not the person that he was born, you know, like he's not the dummy that had an abusive childhood that is 300 pounds. Like he's the person that he created.
Yeah.
But the thing that I love that he says that the 300-pound version of him always lurks, you know? And so like, that's like for me, something that I try to think about is cause I've been unhealthy. I've been way overweight, and there's things that come with that, like knee pain, back pain, like being out of breath going upstairs.
Yeah.
You know, like things that I think I take for granted now a little bit, but like whenever I'm trying to make a decision or think about that, I always think, or I've started thinking now because of this analogy that this has, is that the version that I am, like, or the real person that I am, is lurking and waiting to show up. I thought about that on Thanksgiving too, even though we earned it. Like I had pounded food. I had 2 plates of food.
Dude, I thought about the same thing.
And I had a slice of pie. And I was like, I'm not the Drew that I created. Yeah. I'm the original Drew right now.
I was writing in my journal about Thanksgiving, and I was like, I said something about shrimp cocktail made an appearance, and so did Fat Brett.
Yeah.
Because, like, Fat Brett, same thing, always lurks.
Yeah.
Like, I go to the gas station all the time. I'll get a drink. And then I always pass the barbecue twisted Fritos, and I'm like, man, I want them.
Flaming hot Cheetos with lemon.
Hot nuts. Just the list goes on. Maybe maple bar donuts.
And taquitos.
Toss a taquito on there. But yeah, I mean, like, I think that's like everyone has a choice.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of power in choice. Like, we all have the responsibility to make the right choices for ourselves. Jordan Peterson always talks about how, like, you should be your own best friend. Like, treat yourself like you would a best friend.
Yeah.
So, like, if you have a drug problem, be like, you wouldn't tell your friend that, oh yeah, you can keep doing that.
Right.
You'd be like, cut it off. Like, same with like overeating.
You gotta be real with yourself.
Yeah.
But I think that also with that analogy, is that you're born a certain way. You might have certain tendencies, but that doesn't mean you're that person forever. You know? Like, you can achieve anything. You just have to choose your hard. You have to choose the right hard
100%.
And push yourself to become the person that you want to be.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I've been working on a lot is, like, being a good husband, trying to be a good husband, like thinking of Allie's needs first. And obviously I've made mistakes.
We all have.
But, like, it's going to be a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
And, like, you have to make the choice every day, like, okay, I'm going to be a good husband today. Because if you don't, then, you know, something might come up and you guys might get in a little argument and might ruin things. But if, like, you're consistently trying to find ways to make her life easier, make her life better, and be there for her when she needs it, then I think that's what a husband should be.
Yeah. And,
like, it only will get better over time. Right. But you have to make the choice every day. Because, like he said, having a bad marriage is hard.
But he also lurks.
He lurks, yeah.
He lurks.
It's the lazy guy.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be lazy.
Yeah, he lurks. I started writing my journal yesterday.
Let's hear about it.
And the first thing that I started with was, I'm not smart. I'm lazy, and I'm fat as, like, in nature, as a human. That's the part that I am. But that I wrote down that I'm changing it, and I wanted to write in my journal to write about things that I learn and see my growth over the next year. So
that's cool.
That's how I started, but, like, I know that person is inside of me.
Yeah.
You know?
So how do you choose to find what to learn about?
I mean, I'm literally just starting. Like, I'm trying to remove distractions. Like, I even had the conversation with Emily about taking the TV out of our bedroom.
Oh, nice.
Which, like, that used to be a whole thing. Like, she didn't want it at the beginning, and I wanted it because our parents had a TV growing up.
It was always the coolest thing.
It was so cool. And, like, I want to be able to watch TV in bed.
Yeah.
There's that. I also charge my phone in the kitchen. And so now I'm, like, I've started reading. Like, right now I'm still reading through some David Goggins books.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to start. That's not true. I'm going to start with the what's it called? What you're talking about. You mentioned it earlier. The anterior mid-cingulate cortex.
Oh, yes. There you go.
But I read a study about it.
Shout out to Huber, man.
But yeah, I need to, like, I think it'll start with just things that interest me.
Yeah.
You know, and then kind of just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, like, this podcast has become. It's like I talk about things I'm interested in, which is a lot of history. It's a lot of, like, self-growth principles and finding ways that you can get better on yourself and then learning from others. Like, I learn a ton from these conversations, just learning from your perspective because you're older than me. You're my big brother. And
barely.
Yeah, 2.5 years. We're pretty much twins. That's true. But I think like if you have a vision of the person who you want to become, then you need to start acting like that person.
Right.
And that's going to mean that you're going to have to sacrifice a lot of comfort because growth, like we talked about already, is not a comfortable situation. Like it's not going to be comfortable, but you have to learn how to be comfortable in the discomfort and just push through and realize like, I will get better. I'm going to be fine. It was interesting because I was listening to that podcast I was telling you about before, Sally McRae and Nick Bear.
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking about how people would come up to her and they're like, how do you run 200-mile races? Like, that seems insane. Like, oh, you're running a 100-mile training run? Like, that's what you're doing for training? That's wild.
Yeah.
And Sally responded, she's like, that's the easiest part of my job because I know I'm going to be okay in the end. And the only way that she's gotten to that point is because of years of doing it.
Right.
And understanding that no matter what, like she will get through as long as she keeps her mind in the right place and she just pushes.
Right.
And that's something I think we can all learn from in any discomfort that we're in is, I think it's cliche to say, but like whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think that's true.
Yeah.
Obviously you don't go do stupid things, but like try and put yourself out there. Like learn about and I can't even remember.
Anterior mid-cingulate cortex.
Yeah, there you go. Learn about that. Like go try and fail at a couple things because like that's the only way you'll grow and that's the only way you'll get better.
Speaking of the mid-cingulate or the anterior mid-cingulate cortex,
the
theory is it's a part of your brain that when you do things that you don't want to do or things that are hard, it grows and it makes like goal achieving easier. So that's also been on like my mind is like, what's the harder choice? Like, what's the thing I don't want to do? And I'm like, okay, that's what I need to do.
Yeah. You know what has been that for me recently is waking up early. I don't know why, but I've struggled with it.
Arizona, dude.
It must be.
It's the sun goes down
and it's like
wakes up late.
Yeah.
You know,
but I don't know. Like, and then I thought about it the other day and I was like, that's when I need to get up.
Yeah.
Like there's this funny quote from Marcus Aurelius where he's like talking about how he's like thinking about himself. So this book Meditations he has is his own journal. It wasn't meant to be published. And so there's a section in it where he's like writing to himself and he's like, what is your purpose on this earth? Is it to stay comfortable in the sheets in bed? Or is it supposed to go out and like work?
Yeah.
And so I always think about that. Like when I'm laying in bed, I'm like, you know what? I just got to get up.
That's why I started charging my phone in the other room.
Smart.
So I don't get distracted in the mornings when I'm waking up.
Hit snooze.
Yeah.
Not an option.
Or scroll on TikTok.
Yeah. What's one thing that's hard for you that you know? Or like what's something like that for you, if that makes sense?
Reading.
Okay.
Reading is it for me. Like I feel like it's easy to read for me when it's like a good story or something, you know, that interests me. But like reading has always been something that I've thought is cool.
Yeah.
But I've been horrible at it my entire life.
Because of our debt. Publisher debt.
Yeah. Well, like
I was at a book.
And like I think books are fascinating. Like there's a lot of amazing stories out there. Yeah. There's a lot of great things to learn about. But I am horrible at reading. Like I love Harry Potter. I've listened to the audiobooks 25 times. I've read through the first 3 books. That's it. Those are like easy books to read too, you know?
Yeah.
And so
gotta read Red Rising, man.
That's something I'm trying to be better at is instead of going to bed and scrolling TikTok, which I would say I've been solid for a week now of reading before bed every single night. So I'm proud of that.
That is good.
But
how hard is that with kids?
Once the kids are in bed, it's
fine.
It's fine. Yeah. They don't really wake up anymore.
Yeah.
But it's still like, it's hard for me. And I told you the story actually Saturday. Emily was sick all day. I had the kids all day. And then I didn't run my 12 miles when I first woke up.
Yeah.
Because Emily wasn't feeling good and I had to go with the kids. And anyway, I went and ran my 12 miles at night. I got done at like 10 o'clock, got home, and I was like, oh, I'm going to play Emily the Show 24. I bought it for $10 that day. I was like, It's on Black Friday deals. You know, like I want to play this. I've been wanting to play it all day, and I was like, no, I'm gonna go just take a shower. Like I'm kind of tired. And then I was like, oh, I'll just watch TV. And I was like, nah, I don't want to wake up Emily. And I grabbed my iPad and I was like, oh, I'll just watch a show on my iPad. And I was like, no, I should probably read. And I sat down and read it was probably 15 minutes, but
that's
like
good.
I still did it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's something for me that I've noticed I'm horrible at is reading. But it's something that like I crave. And so I'm trying to master reading. And I think too, like, at least for where I'm at right now, is I don't want to read like fantasy stories. Yeah. Like I want to read something that's going to help me like grow as a person. Unless it's Red Rising, then you should. I'll listen to that. It's so good. But no, I love that. Like, and it is difficult. And I love the process that you just talked about, because one thing that, sorry to move a little bit, I've been doing is working from home. And that is something I'm not used to. And it's funny because you mentioned that process of like you come home and you're like, oh, I'm going to play MLB The Show. I'm just going to take a shower. And I don't know what else he said, but then you're like, oh, I'm just going to do this. And then you finally ended up just reading. Yeah. But like it was a process, a thought process. And so I have the same thing. Like I'll get up and I'll go to the bathroom here and I'll walk by the pantry and I'm like, maybe I'll grab a snack. But then like I've been asking myself actually, like, is really what thoughts that go through my head. I'm like, okay, are you actually hungry? No. Like go sit down. Like you're fine. You're just bored. Like go do something productive. Right. Because I think boredom is good, I think, for thinking through, getting through thoughts. But if you are always bored and you're not doing things, then like that voice that's like, hey, go eat a snack. Why don't you eat a couple cookies? It's going to speak louder and louder. Just scroll through TikTok. Yeah, go through. That's the thing I'm trying to beat right now so bad. TikTok. It's just the dopamine is just flowing when I'm scrolling on it. It's crazy. There's like actually studies coming out on TikTok because as soon as you open it up, it starts playing. Yeah. It's like one of the only apps that does that. Right. It's like Instagram. There's other feeds, like you can go on stories or whatever, but like this is just like instant. Come in, like welcome. And so it tries to captivate your attention. So it's like made to. But I'm telling you right now, charge your phone in the other room. My phone usage is down to 80%. Just throwing it out there. That's pretty good. So it works. How long were you on your phone at night? A lot. Well, and in the mornings. Yeah. You know, like before going to the gym and stuff. But then, like, obviously when I'm at work, I can't be on my phone all day. Yeah. So it adds up. Fair. It adds up. If you don't mind, I love your nightly routine. I know we talked about it last time. Yeah. But I think talking about it for a second might help other people be like, okay, well, if you prep and prepare yourself for these harder decisions, then it'll be easier when the time comes to make them. Yeah. Like just run through your nightly routine a little bit. First, I want to say backstory for this is I had some of those real conversations with myself. You know, like I know myself. We all know ourselves better than anyone, right? Like we know our flaws. We know the things that trigger us. And so that's where this came from. Was like I knew that if I woke up in the morning and I didn't have everything ready to go, like that would be an excuse for me not to be out of the door on time or to skip. So that's kind of like where it started. Was I had those conversations, hence where like the reading is coming from. Is like I had that real conversation with myself where I was like, I don't feel like an educated person. Like my brain doesn't feel like an educated person. Yeah. Like I feel like my thoughts and the way I speak, I sound dumb. You know, that might be self-critical, but I had those conversations. So my routine is like I come home from work. Like there's really no routine until the kids go to bed. Once the kids are in bed, then the first thing I do is I pack my clothes for the gym or for like the next day in my bag. Then I set out my clothes, either if I'm going on a run or workout. And then I pack my lunch for the next day. And then I put out any supplements that I'm going to take in the morning before I go to the gym and any food I'm going to eat. Yeah. So like if it's a toast, whatever, like I put it all out. So it's just ready to go. Routine. Like it's literally just like dumbed down. Yeah. And simple. Literally what you're doing is simplifying your life. Because like if you think about it and you break it down more, it's like, okay, well, putting your clothes out is a way to avoid the excuse of like, oh man, like I can't find my clothes. Like I'm just going to lay back down. Yeah. Having your food ready. When lunch comes around, people bring pizza. It's like, I got my food in the fridge. I did eat pizza last time people brought pizza in the office, so.
Yeah, but you had a long run.
Yeah.
You're good. And then like same with supplements and stuff. It's like I don't have to question what I'm taking.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. Like you have to set yourself up for success if you want it.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I try to read before I go to bed, so I have a book real close to my bed.
Right.
Or I have my Kindle or something. And so like
same for me, I put my phone in the other room.
Yeah.
So that if I'm not scrolling, I'm reading, you know.
Yeah. It's huge.
And Emily, I have to say, is like a huge superstar. Like she's kind of been the reason why I've started reading more. Is because she's reading. Like she loves reading, and so like instead of me laying in bed scrolling on TikToks or us watching TV, we're usually both in bed reading now.
Yeah.
So, but
I love it.
That's been like a huge motivator for me, is like knowing that she's gonna be reading too.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to disturb her by watching a show or whatever. So.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. And I don't know. The more that I do those hard decisions, like choose the harder path that provides more results in the long term, like I don't, the better my life seems to be, because it's not filled with like random TikTok videos. As much fun as those are, and I think it's important to have them as like an outlet, it's just balance your time where it needs to be. Like if you have an extra 5 minutes, sure, why not?
Yeah. Are you sitting on the toilet?
Yeah, go for it. What else are you gonna do?
Unless you're getting ready to go to the gym in the morning.
Yeah, then go to the gym.
Yeah.
No excuses.
Yeah.
This is something I've thought about with choosing the hard in terms of faith. Because I think there's a perspective to be said on like the hard choices in fitness, mindset, and faith. And I think now it's kind of hard to have faith, as weird as that might sound. I don't know where I was going with that. So
I mean, I can talk to that though. Like I kind of get what you're saying. Like
yeah.
Like for me, in my faith, like I have two thoughts with this. The first thought that I had is I've chosen my faith.
Yeah.
And other people may not have chosen my faith, and I don't hold them to that same standard.
That's
right.
true.
So like I choose that. But then the other thought that I had when you were saying is like there's so much out there in the world, negative and positive, right? Of people trying to pull you in one direction.
Yeah.
Or make you believe the way that they believe, because the way you believe isn't the way they believe, which means you're wrong, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, like I feel like choosing my heart is just choosing the types of things that I put into my life. Like, for example, the movie Heretic. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. That's the one with the sister missionaries that get kidnapped or whatever, right? Yeah. And I had read online that like the whole concept of it is to get you to question your faith. And, you know, like at first I was like, oh, it's a horror movie. Like that sounds cool. Yeah. But I had made the decision not to go see it, not because I'm like, oh, they're bashing my religion or bashing whatever. It was just because there's already so much stuff out there that's trying to pull me away from Christ or whatever. And I didn't want to give another opportunity for something to pull me away from that.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's part of choosing your heart with faith, is like choosing to believe in what you believe, and also like avoiding things that are just gonna inherently make you question it, or, you know, which there's nothing wrong in questioning, but like if you're just constantly putting stuff in your face that's gonna make you doubt it or pull you away from your faith, then you know, I think there's something wrong with that. So I don't know.
No, I think that's what I was trying to get at there, is like you need to be confident in yourself and like your own beliefs. So like if that's religion, great. If it's like, I don't know, you believe in some kind of higher power, awesome. Or if it's just like, I believe the path I'm going is right.
Yeah.
Like you need to have faith to stick to it. Because that faith is going to get you through the hard nights when like, oh, I know I need to read.
Right.
Oh, man, I'm not really feeling like I'm getting smart now.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, well, I know, at least with running, if I'm consistent and I show up constantly and I do the work, then I became a better runner.
Right.
And so the same thing goes for learning. It's like if you show up, you work at it, and you're consistent, it'll build that momentum. And then this is just the last thing I think we can talk about with this poem. But how do you think other people identify like their own hard? What do you think that looks like for them?
I mean, I think it's very personal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think there's some generic ones, you know, that everyone can like lean on, like choose your heart, don't eat a donut.
Yeah.
Eat broccoli. You know what I mean? Like
Eat broccoli.
like there's some like generic things that like for everyone it's that. But I think it's just like going back to Goggins and some things we've talked about is you need to look at yourself and like what are the areas you need to improve on?
Yeah.
You know, like where are you slacking? And then going off of that, being like, hey, well, you know, like for me, it's the reading and like not feeling educated, or like earlier with running and fitness, which I still feel like I need to choose my hard and get better, right?
Yeah.
But
and you are.
I think that that's really is. It needs to be personal and it needs to come from you.
Yeah.
You know, like I think one of the reasons also we talked about David Goggins being misunderstood is that he can't teach you his mindset. I think this is why it's clicked so much for me recently, why it's like I'm so excited about it, is because I feel like internally I realize it's from me.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about this on Saturday on our coaching, you know, like the reason that this has been successful, us, you know, our coaching or you're coaching me, is because I came to you and said, I need you to help me.
Yeah. It was like we talked about, the other way around doesn't work. Yeah. It's like, Drew,
it has to be
you gotta
internal.
move. Yeah, it has
Which
to be.
Which means you have to be real with yourself. And you need to have hard conversations. Like if you're fat, you just need to tell yourself that you're fat. But at the same time, like I'm not saying, yeah, you're fat or I'm fat and I'm a piece of shiz and like I can't go anywhere and I'm crippled by the thought that I'm depressed about the way I look. Like you need to just have that real conversation. Like I'm fat, but that doesn't mean I'm always going to be fat.
Right.
You need to look at who you are now versus who you want to become and become that person and choose.
That's huge.
Your hard.
Yeah, I love that. That's like exactly it. Is be honest with yourself, but don't let that honesty hold you back. Like let it fuel you. Because if you are fat and you're looking in the mirror and you don't like what you see, then use that as fuel to change.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a hard, long, uncomfortable process, but in the end, you'll be proud of who you became.
Yeah.
And I just wrote down like a couple things that I think people can use if they want to like identify what their heart is in life. The first one I would say is like kind of what you said, but align your choices with your values. Like actions, your thoughts pretty much determine your actions and your actions determine your life. And I think thoughts and values go hand in hand in some degree, but whatever you think is important to you, your mind will look for that and provide evidence that it is.
Right.
It's like those values need to be deeply personal. And like the next thing I wrote was look at the long-term outcomes and not the short-term discomfort, because there's going to be plenty of days when you're uncomfortable if you're growing. Like every day should be uncomfortable. Every day when you wake up and get out of bed, it should not be easy, because you should want to be going back to sleep because you're tired from the day before. Obviously don't work yourself into like a hole, but like you have to understand what it's going to take to get there. Like the hours of training and nutrition and reading, studying, self-development in your career, whatever you're trying to do, like it's going to be a long journey. But then the last thing I wrote was like, you're not in it alone. And so kind of like what you said, you either seek accountability or support.
Yeah.
And don't let the hard feel so overwhelming, because there's plenty of other people who have done it before you.
Yeah.
And then like, that's where the consistency helps build momentum and get you on just that path of consistency.
Yeah. I'd only add on to the accountability part is for me and you, like I knew that I would say at the beginning, I knew that if I didn't do something, I'd have to tell you.
Yeah.
You know, like I would have
I
would have to face that and say something to you. But then eventually I feel like that part has gone away, and now it's like if I don't do this, I'm disappointing myself now.
Yeah.
Like I have to have that conversation with myself.
That's good.
But it's like I think we've talked about this before, is like there's going to be days.
Yeah.
There's always going to be days, but like I know that shifts. but I still need you,
Yeah.
like you're still like my coach, and
I feel the same.
we're working towards goals and we're keeping each other accountable. But like, I feel like you got to start somewhere, and then eventually it'll naturally come to you.
Yeah.
Like, and you'll be able to manage it.
Yeah, I agree. So like, have someone help you get you started, and then, like you said, you'll get to the point to where it's like, I don't want to disappoint myself.
Yeah.
It's, you've built yourself into the person who you are today.
Right.
So I think that's huge. Any other pieces of advice for someone looking to make a change, or
just, get started, you know, and it starts with just that raw conversation with yourself, and like bringing down barriers and accepting it, but not accepting it to the point where you're crippled and being like, you just got to work. But yeah, I think that was my advice last time too, is just, you have to start.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's small, but you have to start,
Right.
like I'm reading right now, I'm still reading like a snail.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it's getting better. Like I've been at 30% in this book for, I don't know, months.
Yeah.
Mainly because I'll read it and then stop and then read it and stop. And now I'm at like 75%,
There you go.
And I did 45% of the book in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So like, that's a win for me. So it just got to start. And then as you continue to go, it gets easier and easier.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say about choosing your hard is, I think this often gets overlooked, but like, the more difficult things that you do, the more it teaches yourself that you can push the limits even further. And
I think it also gives you direction.
Yeah.
On where to push yourself.
I think so too.
Because I've noticed that in myself. Like, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're
but
good.
like, I've noticed that with myself. Like, it started with running, then it went into nutrition.
Yeah.
And then, then it went into, well, how far can we go with running? We've set goals within running. And now it's starting to go into, well, how can I, learn? And then it was like, how can I be a better father? And now it's, how can I learn more? And I think as you continue to go, you're going to have more raw conversations with yourself, and find different areas to like keep pushing yourself.
Yeah. And you can't fake it.
Yeah.
When you're in the pain cave and you're like trying to learn about yourself in every way possible.
Yeah.
You can't fake it.
I'm telling you, it is the anterior
That's
mid-cingulate
it.
cortex.
But no, I really think it is like, I don't know. You just build a momentum and you realize you're capable of more. Like, I would have never thought I would run an ultra marathon this year, but I did. And it's only because I tried with a half marathon first. Then I hit a marathon and I was like, oh, I'm going to go for sub 3. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do an ultra.
You mentioned that. You mentioned that, so now I'm like, I have something I wanted to share.
Please do.
How many times did I tell you I would never run? Last November.
I was fighting you for it. I was like, you got to do it.
Okay. Well, I didn't realize that my Nike Run Club is connected to my new watch.
Yeah.
And so I've never, it's tracked every single run.
Since you got it?
Since I got it.
Okay.
And so it's accumulated from when I was using the Apple Watch to now. On the year, I've hit 1,100 miles.
Dude, that's insane. Give me some.
Like I said, I would never run.
I know.
And it started out slow. Like it started out with 3 miles, 2 miles. Now it's like,
Today you hit 5 just on like a before chest day.
Right. Like
and tomorrow's 8.
It compounds.
Yeah, it's insane.
And you'll look back and be like, holy crap, I ran 1,100 miles this year.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
Yeah. We're capable of so much.
Yeah.
And we don't give ourselves credit for it. And the only way to find out what you're capable of is to choose hard.
Yeah.
Like you have both decisions. You have good or bad.
Right.
But choose your hard.
Yeah.
Got anything else?
No, that's it.
Your haircut looks good.
Thank you.
Everyone who sees this, look at his haircut.
Yeah. Should I show my 1,100 miles to the camera?
Yeah. So they know we're not lying.
It's real.
This is facts. Big facts. Oh, yeah.
1,100 miles.
1,100, baby. Well, Drew.
176 hours. That's not true.
176?
176 days. 176 days. That's how much
damn,
time.
you're fast.
That's how much days or how much time I've spent running.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, not like 176 consecutive days, like 176, like adding up the time of all my runs.
That's wild.
It comes out to 176 days.
All right.
That's pretty sick. Just saying.
You ran for 176 days this year.
Straight. Just kidding.
After saying you'd never run again.
Yeah.
Well, you're always welcome on.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
I'll be back.
And you'll be back.
Thank you.
Keep getting after it, everyone. Nice. Dude, that's sick.